Man, this is lifestyles of the poor and unfucking fortunate. But I tell you what, but bitch, we got views.
Well, Bubba, I guess it's finally time to do this, man.
Okay.
Chat Arms TV, and we are here with the guy Squints. This has been my right hand. He was one of my right hands back in the day, along with Brandon E. when Show and Proof started. But he's been my right hand the last several years with the Show and Proof stuff, for sure. And shout out Brandon E. That's still my dog for life, too. But he's been here with me through good, bad, my disappearances, everything. He's been here through everything. And he currently is the one that came up with the I Got Some Shit to Say podcast. It's really getting some traction. So we're here with my boy We're here with my boy Squint 615.
What's up, man? It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's good to be here, man.
It is, man. It's weird for you, not for me.
Yeah, it's weird.
People have been asking about this, man. That people have seen you. Anybody that's followed Show and Prove and Chat Arms TV knows you've always been around.
Yeah.
But people recently that are just picking up on Chat Arms TV, maybe within the last 6 months, are just seeing you through the podcast.
Gotcha.
They don't really know so much about your story and all that stuff as far as what got you to how we linked up, what got you into music, because for the longest time you were also an artist too.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean? So, but now you're just strictly behind the scenes and you do the podcast stuff.
Yeah.
But I figured it'd be cool to get everybody caught up on that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So, I guess we'll kind of start out with what was everything like for you, like growing up, as far as when did you say you started really getting into rap music and stuff like that?
All right. Yeah. Let's see. So, man, I grew up in Rutherford County, Tennessee, in Smyrna, Tennessee. Actually, I went to Smyrna High School. My parents, my mom raised me on her own from the time I was I think I was 8 when my parents got a divorce, and my dad's always been in my life more currently now than ever before. But when I was young, there was a portion of my life when my dad really wasn't around as much towards the later years. But my mom pretty much raised me by herself rather, and
right.
We lived in an apartment for a number of years in Smyrna, Tennessee, and it was probably like 16 is when I had aspirations to be an artist. And the way that whole thing started, there was a few kids around school that would occasionally freestyle or rap or whatnot. And one day I tried it out. You know what I'm saying? I just freestyled with two guys in their truck, like smoking or something. You know what I mean? And it sort of took off from there. At first, it was just sort of aspirations to hear myself. Like I wanted to be able to record something and listen to it
right.
in my vehicle. Like that was all I wanted to do.
Right.
It wasn't about like being a rap star or a radio play or being the next big thing or nothing. I didn't really have those like original dreams. It was more just kind of like I bet I could do it type shit. But then
right.
it just turned into a little bit more.
Do you remember the first the first song that you laid or verse that you laid? Or?
I don't, man. I don't remember the first. Okay, yeah, I do. The first record I recorded was on a label out of Smyrna called Made Entertainment. Made ENT.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
And the song was called, fuck, man, if you wouldn't have asked me, I probably could have told you. Something Ride or
right.
Something.
Probably
Rolling. That's what it was. Rolling. And that was the first song no, that is 1,000% incorrect. That's so wrong.
That's the first one that you recorded for actual.
No. The first time I recorded like on wax was like 99. Year was 1999. I was probably like a junior in high school at the time. Yeah, because I graduated high school, or should have graduated high school in 2000, and I dropped out. But anyway, I was working at House of Hits in Antioch, Tennessee with a gentleman named DJ Lil Les, who at the time had a record label. Still to this day, I think he still has a label called CMF Entertainment. And those guys were the first cats I ever got to record with. And I probably did like an assortment of records with them, probably like 6 to 8 records I recorded with them during that little number of years. And then that's when I went made ENT, and I think that's where like my first solo record came from. Was probably the made ENT shit.
I got you. But you said during school too, like on the podcast, you talked about you were always into music before you got into rap, and you did like DJ stuff too.
Yeah, for sure, 1,000%. I was the music had me from the jump, man. I mean, growing up with just me and my mom. I had an older sister, but she was like a few years older than me. So when I was like a teenager stuck at home on a Friday night after 11 o'clock, like my sister would kind of be out kicking it type shit. So it was just me and my mom's a lot of those times. And mom was real huge on country music, man. And like it was constantly playing in my house. I don't know when hip hop really got a hold of me. It was probably early high school or something like that, where I really just sort of committed to the whole culture and lifestyle of it all. Like I loved it all, man, from the cars to the jewelry to just the artists and their stage presence, etc. Like I don't know. It's kind of where I guess fell in love with it all. I don't even remember what you asked me just now.
About what got you into like doing DJing and stuff.
Oh, the DJing, yeah. So it sort of came hand in hand, like at the same time, really, because when I learned that most records came with an instrumental. It was like you couldn't get a single, like you couldn't go to the CD store and buy the single and it always have the instrumental on it.
Right.
Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah, it was like this radio edit.
But if you got the wax, if you got the record, that beat was on that record.
So they could mix them,
Right, and there was a period of my life, like right out of high school, where I caught a small little case. It wasn't a small case. It was a theft of it was Class D felony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got a little felony case on some bullshit, man. Me and a couple buddies. Yeah, long story short, idiot, dumb kid shit. Stole some shit, got caught. Right. Did a little house arrest stint.
Oh, so that's what you was talking about?
And I violated. I smoked the whole time I was on house arrest. I never stopped. And then like one time, like I got a curfew issue or something based off my house arrest times or being under probation. And they asked me if I would pass a drug test, and it was just like a joke. Like, hell no, I won't pass a drug test. Like, I just admitted I wouldn't. And they tacked on like another 60 days, I think, to my house arrest just off that. Like,
because you were underage?
Yeah, well, no, because I was already on probation, underage, and I shouldn't be smoking weed at that time in my life. Like, it just wasn't, that's not okay.
Right, but the reason you didn't go to jail was because you were underage.
Yeah, 1,000%. And it was a theft with a restitution involved, and we were already in the process of paying back a restitution. Like, I did probation, supervised probation for a year. Pretty sure it was a year. I don't know, man. It was a long time ago. I was 16 years old. About a year, I guess, and then ended up violating probation, getting on house arrest, and then getting the house arrest extended after the curfew thing with drug test bullshit. But long story short, that's when I fell in love really with, and I'd already had the freestyle shit sort of going, but I also wanted the turntables in because I was stuck at home. So my homie at the time, Les, DJ Lil Les, shout out Lil Les, still the homie to this day. He helped me get some turntables for the low and started helping me acquire some vinyl records, man. Next thing you know, I had a couple crates and 2 turntables. I got a desk from a friend, like out of an old school or something, like an old school desk. And for that whole house arrest stint, that was kind of the thing. I never stopped smoking the whole house arrest stint. But, like, people would come through, but I had to wait for everybody to get out of school because I'd done dropped out of school and all my homies were at school.
Right.
So I'd be at home stuck. And as soon as everybody got out of school, I lived on a corner lot in the middle of Laverne at the time, and we had a gazebo in our front yard, like on the corner right there, and that was like the spot. Like as soon as motherfuckers would get out of school, they hit me and they pull up at the crib, and we literally hold it down the gazebo all evening, smoking, just kicking the shit until it was time for everybody to go home or whatever. And my mom at the time would work 2-3 jobs and was barely home anyway. I was on house arrest. I couldn't fucking leave, so all I had was turntables until everybody got out of school, and then just kicking it outside with my homies and freestyling and smoking, just being a kid at that age, I guess.
Yeah. And
as soon as I got off house arrest, it was I want to be a rapper.
Yeah. Well, it makes and honestly, that's kind of the way I did things. It's as far as DJing, it wasn't so much DJing for me. It was just making mix CDs. So it was like the same thing.
Same shit though, really, man. I mean, all you wasn't blending records, but you were taking an assortment of songs, putting them in a particular order that you thought was ideal for the consumer, and either giving it to somebody specific or you're giving it to a handful of people.
Yeah, and whenever we do parties around school, they would want me to like bring my CDs and DJ it or whatever.
Right.
You know.
To your point, like even though I had turntables, I wasn't recording mixtapes. I had turntables just to fucking have turntables. I had records stacking for the instrumental aspect of it. There was a mic hooked up to the deck, and you could talk like a disc jockey. You know what I'm saying? And you could do your thing. But I never had a track recorder over here recording what I was doing. I didn't put out mixtapes like that. I did mixtapes like you did. But I would go a little bit further, and I'd put like intros and shit on them.
Yeah.
Like I'd literally just grab that mic and do like plug it up to the computer and just like on sound recorder, literally just record like a DJ Squints kind of shit. And put it on the beginning and ends, and I'd call them shit. Like if it would be a specific homie, a perfect example. I had a buddy named BJ, and he always drove a Cadillac. I was like a big DeVille type shit, like big old Cadillacs, OG Cadillacs, and we used to call his mixtape series Cadillac Riding, and it was literally like a series of tapes, but it was all like time frame based off what was popping, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Cadillac Ridings. You know what I'm saying? Like it was. This is what it was, man. It was fun times. But yeah, I never recorded mixtapes. I just scratched records just to scratch records and play with instrumentals and shit.
Right, but you said 99 is when you recorded your first song.
Yeah. That's when the solo shit, where I became an aspiring rapper, you know, and all that. And that was when it was still cool to be a rapper, and not a lot of kids really was dribbling that type of ball. Like everything was. It wasn't as what it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like it got from 99 to like 06, it became so oversaturated. Like I almost lost interest at that point until I met Chatty. Yeah,
and so your first actual, say, album that you put out was before I think I met you, or you had just released it when we met in like 07.
Yeah.
And that first record was called
Time for a Change.
Time for a Change, right. That's the one that none of us have.
No one has a copy of that album that I am in contact with. If you have a copy of my first CD, Time for a Change, under Made Entertainment, I would love to have a copy.
Yeah, because I never even heard that one.
That record featured a handful of artists on it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the cover and everything.
B. Howard's on that record.
Yeah. And I remember because, 2006, when you first dropped that, did you start to see like, is this something that I really legit want to try?
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Like when I dropped in 06, the grind was so much different. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like upload a song and watch the wildfire. Like it was literally, I recorded this X amount of songs, put them on a CD, made X amount of copies. Let's go get them, guys. What are we selling them for? Whatever we can get.
Yep.
And it was literally just shoving your music down people's throats.
Dude, I mean, the grind, like, you had to be. And we've talked about it with so many different artists.
And if you're a self-investment if you're in that type of scenario, I mean, you're investing in all of that shit on the front end, hoping for the back end. But then by the time the back end's ready and presentable, you are so eager and willing to get your music out there, you almost take a L. Like it's almost an L off.
No, for sure. I took so many L's in the same way you just talked about.
Mainly just to get your disc in whoever's hands you thought it should be in. Like, yeah, there was a little bit of money here and there, but it never was easy, man. That shit was so, man.
Well, you got to think, bro. Like, and back then when you did that album, there's the same time I was doing my grind
same
too.
shit.
So like, you put all this money and see, back then there was no digital and no internet.
No.
Well, there was no social media. So everything you put into the presentation had to be put into the physical presentation.
Correct.
Meaning you had to get shrink wrap. You had to get, and bro, it was not cheap.
No.
I mean, you're talking 1,000 copies. You're spending $1,500 to make your shit look good, hoping you sell half of them.
Right, and and it was more of like a local market. Like we wasn't even aiming, because I had a couple of investors, like just homies from around the way that just believed in my craft, that really just rocked with me and still rock with me to this day. Major Weight was an investment on that.
Yeah.
You know, Major's that's my guy, man. And I still fuck with dude, super tough. But he's one of the cats that believed in me early on to sort of back me financially to where we had a presentable product. It wasn't just a CD with some written Sharpie shit on it and a little printed off piece of paper. Like we went through all all the right moves to get it printed on and have a cool spindle and a full sleeve print. Like everything was legit. It was fun. It was great. The records were fire. And from a local aspect, man, we made a big jump. You know what I'm saying? Like the name Squints around the city was kind of like known of amongst everybody that just sort of knew me. You know what I'm saying? Like if you didn't know me, you didn't know about me. But if you knew of me, you were quick to sort of mention me, I guess you'd say. But it was like freestyling, just bullshitting around the city. There was like parties and shit. You know what I mean? Then I had a couple of little records I could put out, and then it's like, hey, you know, everybody. I'd walk in and give them my disc, and they play the shit all night, like that kind of vibe. But it was all local love. It really wasn't much more than that.
Right. And
then when I tried to start making a push outside of my own personal city, Smyrna, Tennessee, and like, you know, would start touching on Murfreesboro because of the college, and like when I started like pushing out like towards Nashville and that kind of shit, that's when I needed to make the change. I needed to change the way I was, the guys that I was working with, that, you know, shout out to all them guys, but they were like kind of, it wasn't focused the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like they were trying to lock themselves in a room, and this is not Major Weight, none of that. This is that made Entertainment, talking back to them. Dude's name was Nelson, and I can't remember the other cat's name. But shout out to them guys, man. Like back where I was at that time in my life is exactly what I needed, because it just sort of opened my eyes about like what I needed to do what I had and to figure out. Like I was just sort of treading water doing that, but I was getting some records done too. So at the same time, it wasn't like a total L. And then, you know, that's when I started pushing outside the city and ultimately met Chad.